Introducing Orbitz Rewards, the instant approach. Earn rewards in an instant, redeem in an instant. Book a flight, use rewards for the hotel. Book the hotel, use them to stay longer. Think reward, redeem, relax, repeat. Orbitz Rewards, instant vacation gratification.
World title #1, Gabriel Medina just got one step closer to really solidifying his name in the world title discussion. The question now for John Florence and Dion Atkinson, which of these two can make their way to the semifinals? Following this quarterfinal matchup, 11-time world champ Kelly Slater up against Owen Wright as first to strike. John Florence goes grabless, clean, relaxed once again. John. Back in the form that we saw yesterday, Ross, and I'll tell you what, if this is any indicator, this is going to be tough for Dion to battle with.
Unbelievably deep right here. All event, John's been so casual. Look at that. Didn't even think about grabbing his rail. And the simple fact that he's that casual with that much danger surrounding him just tells you how in control John is. That was one of the better rides we've seen in quite some time in this event. So John starting right where he left off.
Right out of the gate, John Florence, the Hawaiian, 21 years old, and you talk about a surfer. This is a surfer that, whether he's in competition or films, people can't take their eyes off of. He always brings highlight reels to every competition, as well as the film parts. I think looking back on all the previous stops, he's always known for that one progressive maneuver. And then Dion Atkinson, let's talk about the 28-year-old South Australian, really doing an amazing job, finally stepping up to the plate on his rookie season and looking awfully comfortable.
Yeah, it's amazing. He's got his work cut out for him right there. 9.8 for John Florence, so he's off to a crazy start. They've only matched up once there. You can see obviously the nod went to John, but I tell you what, just how casual he is in the barrel is amazing. He's on another level.
Well, speaking of another level, current #1 in the world, Gabriel Medina. He is with our own Rosie Hodge. Let's hear from him.
Thank you. Gabriel Medina, great matchup with Kalohe and Dino. Just talk to me a little bit about that priority battle that you guys had in the beginning of the heat.
Kalohe made me pedal a lot. Yeah, we started like pretty deep in the peak, and I don't know, that was his strategy, and I worked on mine and tried to keep him out of the position to get the good wave, and I think it kind of worked. My first wave was 6.5 and his was 6.5, and then I got 6.9, and then I could get the priority. So yeah, I had my strategy and work it, and I'm pretty stoked.
And you match up in the semifinals against Bede Durbridge, who has a lot of competitive experience out here at Chopu. What's it going to take to beat him in that semifinal?
Bede is surfing so good. I watched his heat against Adrian Buchan, and he's ripping. I don't know. My strategy is gonna be just to get the good ones. Just try to surf and not worry about him because he's surfing good too. And whatever. Yeah.
All right, Gabriel, we'll see you in the the semifinals right now. Pete, you do have brother in the channel. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Rosie. So here with Kalohe, and first question I got to ask is, you guys went all the way over to the right. How was it up there?
Well, I'm not going to let him start with a 9 like he does every other heat. He did that to me earlier. I was deeper, and then he snuck around me and got like an 8.5. So that's pretty much how he wins most of his heats for that first score, so I wasn't going to let him do that. And then it worked against my favor because then he was in priority for the good ones, but I kind of blew it out there, and I went on that 5, and then there was a really good one after, and I only needed an 8.5. It wasn't like I was comboed or anything.
So a good run though in this event. I mean, you really proved to a lot of people in the world there that this man wants a few of those Chopo bowls.
Yeah, I saw Slater, and he's obviously accomplished the most of anyone. Say the proving never ends. So yeah, I just want to continue to shut people up.
I love it. The proving never ends.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, we made reference to it earlier, how Kalohe and Dino would take any of the stuff that he would hear on the blogs, and it would fuel his fire. And I'll tell you what, Definitely silenced a lot of people with his performance here at Chopu, and interesting too hearing from Gabriel Medina. You know, when you read interviews with Gabriel Medina, you have to understand he's speaking his second language. People that spend a lot of time with Gabriel Medina, they're like, when they get to know him, they're like, yeah, there's the competitor, that's one side, but the Gabriel Medina that you don't know, totally cool guy.
It's a great point, Pat.
Yeah.
You know, it is his second language. I wish I could speak Portuguese and English, but you know, he's pretty quiet and reserved, which anyone can respect. He's pretty humble, but very, very confident, and he has a game plan, and he executes it time and time again.
And as we pointed out, he'll have to go through B. Durbridge if he is to make his way to the final. The winner of this quarterfinal heat will move on to Semi 2, and then we'll go right into Kelly Slater and Owen Wright, quarterfinal number 4, a rematch of 2011 where Kelly Slater got the upper hand. So the score for that first wave, John Florence, a 9.8. 9.8 for John Florence. And once again, that barometer is set awfully high, but as we've seen with Dion Atkinson, he tends to surprise. You know, when you underestimate him, he's really proven any of the critics wrong at this Chopu stop.
Well, he needs to draw some of that mojo from B. Durbridge, you know, in his performance. He's kind of got that same vibe in this event right now, maybe slight underdog, but he can definitely get it done. He does have, in his favor, beautiful technique. He gets nice and high and tight. He's got that little knock-knee backside drag, so he can get it done. He just needs to get in the right rhythm.
Having his best WCT event ever, his first career quarterfinal in a WCT. This is going to bode well for Dion Atkinson, also up against Mitch Cruz at the end of the season for Rookie of the Year. And we talk Rookie of the Year, obviously it's usually those rookies with you know, incredible first seasons on the CT. When John made his debut, he ended up 4th overall. So obviously Dion Atkinson trying to inch his way and you know, get that coveted Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think, you know, we heard a great insight there from Kaloy and Dino talking about, hey, I want to continue to quiet my critics. And you look in the water at John Florence, and I think, you know, everyone finds their motivation. Kelly's another guy that he's constantly having to reinvent himself at the ripe age of 42. You know, you have to find that mojo from somewhere. But what's interesting about John, he doesn't seem like Gabriel in the fact that he's overly competitive. I think he just likes to surf at a really high level, and out of anyone in the lineup, it seems like he's really enjoying himself in these waves.
Well, priority sits with Dion Atkinson right now, under 27 minutes on the clock. John Florence sitting on that 9.8. When we talk about the rookie discussion, looking back at former Rookies of the Year, John Florence 2012 when he made his rookie debut, ended 4th in the year, and then you look at just the performance. Nat Young when he came onto the scene, wow, what a performer in his first year on tour, but some established veterans now in that mix.
Yeah, there is. Look at that, Taj Burrow, 1998.
Staggering, right?
Still competing for world titles, you know, at present day in 2014.
There's a lot of fans of Taj Burrow out there. Some are saying he's doing the best surfing he's ever done in 2014, and he's been at it so long. So Dion Atkinson yet to get on the board. We've been talking about the comfort factor John Florence shows when things get a bit gnarly here at Chopu. You know, you made reference to growing up on the shores of Oahu, obviously weaned on heavy bowls, but is there anything that you can kind of take from his ability to calm the nerves that separates him? What is the X factor with John?
Well, it's interesting, you know, growing up on the North Shore, of course that's going to influence you because you're simply exposed to a lot of power and big waves throughout your entire childhood, and that's going to lend to being comfortable in heavy waves. But everyone's born with a certain set of tools, just some natural ability. John's one of those freaks like Kelly Slater and a bunch of other guys where, you know, straight from day one, they were just born to be a natural athlete. So much agility and reflexes that, you know, it really sets him apart.
Kind of nerves of steel, maybe the DNA of a Navy SEAL when things get pretty intense, completely relaxed and calm.
Exactly, it's a great point. He can perform under high pressure.
And he relishes when things get super heavy there, as we see Gabriel Medina, Stepdad Charlie making their way in, and this has been the active routine for these two every day on the lay days here. Gabriel Medina has been spending a lot of time free surfing. We mentioned a coming early, and it's really been making the difference. It definitely paid dividends in Fiji, as we saw his performance that Medina put down there.
Yeah, you can see he always travels with his father-in-law, Charlie. And keep in mind, Pat, these fellas, if one of them makes the finals, they're going to surf 5 times in intense waves at Chopu. So it's a marathon, and you can see that was great little insight there. It looks like Gabriel's going to go in, maybe have some water and relax. You have to pace yourself.
I know there's a lot of purists out there that hate the discussion, how, you know, they hate the aspect of like, oh, these surfers are working out, they're training, but stamina, like as you point out, it enters the discussion when you have a day like this, especially after taking a few floggings.
Hey, one of those wipeouts, being ragdolled, you know, getting held down for 2 waves, you basically age a year. I mean, it's so stressful, not to mention the physicality of it. It's taxing.
Well, John Florence, for the moment, the only surfer with a wave so far in this quarterfinal matchup up against Dion Atkinson. John Florence sitting on a 9.8, 23.5 on the clock. And priority sitting with Dion Atkinson, one of the 2 rookies on the 2014 tour. And Dion Atkinson, his first quarterfinal appearance on the WCT. Either way it unfolds for Dion Atkinson, he can hold his head high that he made it to quarterfinals. Obviously, as I pointed out, he's been the spoiler up to this point. He's taken down a lot of big names.
He really has, and he's kind of smoked himself out. You know, now people, I don't think anyone takes anyone on tour lightly. They know better than that. But you know, the only negative that he gets from this is now people, you know at Pipeline, Fiji, Chopes, he's a threat.
So we've seen a few personalities here at the break of Chopu as we take a look at the tide and how that is going to impact the waves that we have seen so far.
Yeah, so we're just on high tide now. That could be a reason why we've seen the pace of the waves slow up a bit. You know, obviously John came out with a bang, but no waves ridden since. So maybe when we get on the other side of this high tide, the water starts going off the reef. I know that's a scary thought, but it might allow more set waves to come through.
What's that like as a competitor when you watch the heat just before yours and it's just rifling, wave after wave, and then you get out there completely dead calm?
It's a great question. There's a lot of surf spots where you don't want to see a ton of waves in the heat prior. Offhand, Bells, J-Bay, some of those point breaks where the swells take a long time to come in. If it's super active, the heat before you have that feeling it's going to be quiet during your heat.
Good news, we see a couple of medium-sized lines starting to stack up a little higher. Dion Atkinson has priority. He'll drop into this one, instantly grabs the rail, stalls it up, gets covered up, and a clean exit for Dion Atkinson. Wow.
You can see Dion, he knows better. He's, you know, that's going to be a mediocre score, not quite getting deep enough in that tube, but he's got a wave on the board. And look how intense this drop is. Again, I think this is going to be a pretty mediocre score. It's still such a risky drop. Great technique there. Getting behind a curtain for a little bit. But the reason why I think the score won't go too high is not quite enough tube time. He was behind that curtain just for you know, a second or two. And so for what's on offer out there, he knows that he's going to have to get back out there and get way behind the curtain.
Sure, Dion Atkinson knows that John Florence intends to back up the 9.8 with another wave in the excellent range. And we mentioned not only his first quarterfinal appearance, but his first appearance at Chopu, and what a way to make a debut. Dion Atkinson scores dropping as anticipated, as you pointed out, Ross, a 4.67. So exciting to see Dion Atkinson get on the board. However, he's going to need to improve upon that and then find a few more waves following, as 20.5 on the clock. Now priority sits with John Florence. And John will just wait to strike. He'll wait for those gems, and he has such an uncanny ability of knowing what waves are going to work and open up. It's unbelievable the way he sniffs it out.
Yeah, he does. You can see he's very patient. He knows which wave he wants. He wants the set waves, but just taking a look at your screen right there, you see a little bit of texture on the water. Some of that sea breeze starting to show its face.
So Dion Atkinson opting to just stay busy on the inside, a bit of a crumbly inside wave. He'll take a few pumps and kick out.
Now that being said, you know, that texture I pointed out, you can see it's very light. It's not enough to cause much concern, but we'll keep our eye on it. Maybe, hopefully it doesn't get any stronger. That can create that unwanted chop on the face. But right now with these waves, they're so big and thick, some of that wind doesn't even matter. The wave still heaves.
Well, John Florence, you hear his name referenced the entire stay here in Tahiti in the free surfs in competition. He's the one that everyone is watching to set the tone. For more on that, we check in with Ronnie, Aki, and Strider.
Cheers, Pat. For good reason, John Florence is a favourite here. He's probably right up there with Kelly Slater. He's never had a win, but his first year here as a rookie, semi-finaled, quarter-finaled last year, obviously in the quarters again, and at this stage looking pretty good to progress on through, opening up with a 9.8, but it's his technique that has him as such a hot pick.
It's flawless, isn't it? It really is. You make it look so easy, and you know the part I like is he hasn't claimed a wave yet, and I don't think he's going to. Strider.
Well, I mean, you can see how relaxed he is out there. You know, there's a question of athleticism and, you know, whether he's just a natural on the surfboard. He's been on a surfboard his whole life, you know, surfing out at that waves like Pipeline at such a young age. And I think he's just so naturally drawn to surfing and comfortable on the surfboard that when a situation like this arises, he's just like, oh yeah, I got this. I'll just drop right in and just sit here. And you can see him dragging his leg right there. He does have that crazy technique, but he's just done it for so long that he's mastered it already at a young age.
Some amazing backhand tube riders on tour. I think John Florence, once he lets go of the rail, he's the guy. He can stand tall in these waves, He can ride over a foam ball without holding the rail. It really sets him aside from some of the other competitors.
Absolutely. He just twists his body just around a little bit, and it's almost like he's surfing it forehand, you know. It's not a problem for him, you know, backhand out here. It's just a joy to watch. It's incredible.
He had a couple of slow heats at the start of this event, but in his last two clashes, he's put together some massive heat score totals, a 19.93 in round 3, and in round 4 an 18.16, and it looks like here he goes again, lads.
Thanks, guys. John Florence, standing tall, finds a second wave, and a great way to get started on wave number 2, trying to build on the 9.8.
A little surprised Dion didn't catch that second wave. Looked pretty good to me, but maybe he was just slightly out of position. But John, now he's going to back up that huge score, putting on an absolute clinic.
Dion Atkinson kicking, paddling. He'll get in, instantly grabs rail. He'll get a quick barrel and makes his way for the channel. Dion Atkinson looking for a 5.14, but scores yet to drop for John Florence's second wave under the 17-minute mark as both surfers make their way back out. Looking back on Dion's wave.
Well, this is a nice wave. You can see he's a little deeper on this one. And that's where he wants to be, behind the curtain there. So you can see Dion building a little momentum, getting deeper and deeper. That's going to create higher scores. But look at this. As I mentioned, John just putting on an absolute clinic. This smells like Combo Town to me after this score drops.
So gets that quick rail grab, sets himself up perfectly, and that's the John you've seen on so many ads, so many films, so comfortable in the barrel. It's like he's at the spa getting a massage once he finds himself shacked.
You can see how critical that drop was, and that's where John took care. He grabbed the rail. Once he had control, he let go. He lets go of that rail more than anyone on tour. And I know Aki mentioned he hasn't claimed yet, but I'm going to argue that. I'm going to say he does the no claim.
Okay.
It's a claim. It's a no claim, but maybe it goes back to a claim because he's not claiming.
Okay. Third quarterfinal appearance in 2014. The desk brings up a good point to talk about his relaxed nature as we see Kelly Slater getting ready for his battle. Quarterfinal battle up against Owen Wright, trying to make his way to the semis. But the desk was talking about John Florence, no hand backside tube riding, bar none, one of the best out there. We saw the evolution of tube riding and how foam ball, getting close to that foam ball is part of the evolution. Is that the next phase where everyone is going to be expected to be comfortable hands-free backside barrel riding?
100%. It's easier to grab your rail, and the reason for that is when you hold on to that rail backside, you're keeping your surfboard under control. You're stabilizing that surfboard under your feet, maximizing your chances of exiting the tube. If you let go and go hands-free, it's much more difficult. It's easier to lose control on the foam ball. So you're showing that you're perfectly slotted in a barrel. The difficulty level goes through the roof when you're hands-free.
John Florence says he prefers to surf this wave backside. However, for Owen Wright, on his forehand, he's proven that even on your forehand here, you can get awfully deep.
And he has, and people have been talking about this entire event. It's all about that magic button. It's where you're going to sit to be perfectly slotted, not too deep and not too far in the shoulder. And he's been on point this entire event.
When you have previous matchups, you talk about Owen Wright and Kelly Slater back in 2011, made it here to the final, and it was that season where Owen really challenged Kelly. Does that always sit back as like an asterisk, a fresh reminder when you go back to a similar spot, or I should say the exact same spot, and you're matched up against that guy that stole a final title from you?
I think so.
Yeah.
You know, Owen has that confidence, and keep in mind he's been sidelined for the better part of the last couple of years with that horrible back injury, and now he seems like he's got, you know, almost back to 100%. So I think he's going into that heat with Kelly Slater thinking, you know what, I have a real good chance of taking this man down.
So now let's do the math. Second wave score for John Florence, 9.33 on top of the 9.8. And as you pointed out, Dion Atkinson now finds himself the unfortunate resident of Combo Land. Once again, John Florence continues to do this heat after heat. As we see John Florence utilizing priority, drives on the foam ball. Can he exit? No.
Wow,
you just saw the sheer force of that thing come at him.
He just went to Gangsterville right there.
Yeah.
That was, he did not need to let go of his rail. He can't help himself. He really likes to take it to that crazy level. I think he won't get his kicks unless he lets go of that rail. If he would have made it out of that barrel, they would have been forced to create another scale. I mean, he would have to get a 20.
How frightening was the POV? You saw that thing coming at him like a freight train.
Amazing there, and John Florence showing that he has zero fear. Still trying to toy with these waves, not just ride them, but actually toy with them.
So takes a hard one there that won't impact his score line. However, he definitely got everyone out of their seat. Watch the commitment.
I love the size of this wave. It's a big one, but it's enough for him to slide right in, and it gave him confidence to keep hands-free technique in that tube. It caught up with him, although. I think if he would have held onto his rail, he had a much better shot of coming out. But as I mentioned, he just can't help himself.
So John Florence putting together an incredible pair of nines to combo Dion Atkinson. Can Dion Atkinson, one of the two rookies on the 2014 season, battle back out? We'll find out right after this. The future is now here in Tahiti as we witness John Florence really bringing his barrel riding to the next level. 9.8, 9.33, forcing Dion Atkinson, one of the two rookies on tour, in a combo situation. 10.5 on the clock. Priority sits with Dion. And now that we've witnessed what John's capable here, does he even have a chance to climb back out?
It's got 10.5 minutes to go. As you mentioned, that's plenty of time.
Dion, he'll utilize priority, pulls himself into the barrel, and just gets eaten up right there, and a wave out the back, nothing for John.
I'll tell you what, he was really close to making it over that foam ball. Had he come out, it would have been a giant score, and he would have been right back in it. So now he's back to square one.
So John Florence out the back with 10 minutes on the clock, now has priority. He'll just sit and wait, and you can imagine John is going to wait for that gem of a wave to come through, as Dion having a bit of a problem there on the inside. Lots of turbulence to deal with.
Yeah, you can see he had to duck dive that first huge whitewash, and luckily our water patrol right on hand for him, so he'll take a little ride around the lagoon and back out to the lineup. As we watch Dion drop into this little beauty, he is super deep, grabbing that rail for extra control, and watch that foam ball in the barrel. Got the best of him. You can see he lost control, went over the handlebars, so very tricky tube ride there. Had he come out, it would have been a big score.
Grinding tube for Dion, unfortunate, couldn't make it out, will remain in the combo situation. Still enough time to grab 2 major waves. However, John Florence has priority. Now Dion will have to take the long way around. Talk about the difference of when you're at a place like this and there is no jet ski assistance. It kind of changes your attitude in terms of what you're willing to charge, right?
It is. You know, I think it's a great addition to the tour. When I was on tour, we didn't have a jet ski assistance, so there was a lot more paddling involved. And what would happen is, although athletically it was something to admire, you missed a lot of waves. We want to see these guys out here surfing every single wave possible.
Yeah. And let's not underestimate the aspect of the jet skis being the water safety, saving guys. You know, we've seen how critical it can get in such a short amount of time. It goes, you know, from taking 1 wave and a 2-wave hold down where you're in a dire situation needing that water safety.
100%. And not only is it safety, but just imagine, you know, if you get cleaned up out here with no assistance, how long it would take you to get washed through the lagoon and paddle back out on your own power. You're talking a good 10 to 15 minutes. So that's time that's not wasted with these skis.
So if you're keeping track, John has comboed his opponent in round 3, round 4, and now here. It's a good situation for John, and let's remind everyone he's currently 13th in the world. Now with the big shakeup that we've seen, the major players in the top 5 sent home early. You can now John Florence is going to enter the top 10 conversation.
Extremely underrated surfer.
Yeah.
I mean, John has the talent, without saying, you know, everyone knows this, of being a world title contender. So with a win here, if he does achieve that, he's going to put himself right there. I mean, the only downside is he has a couple of throwaways already.
Well, we've talked about this before where John Florence loves surfing so much he has a problem pulling back and surfing a little safe, if you will. This is a place that he's doing anything but. He's not surfing safe whatsoever. He's enjoying the moment. That's the kind of John that all his fans want to see.
You think of longevity and John and what he could do later on in his career once he has a little more patience. Right now he seems like just a amped out, psyched Grom. He surfs probably more than anyone, and a result of that is a lot of times he's sunburnt, he gets scrapes, he gets cut up, he gets injuries, so he is just a surf turkey.
How about the free surf in J Bay on one of the lay days? How long? Was it something like 5 to 7 hours he free surfed?
With a heat bright and early the next day. Yeah, just not worried about saving his energy at all.
Well, time is running out, unfortunately, for Dion Atkinson. 6.5 on the clock. Priority still sits with John Florence. To remind everyone, coming up, 4-time champ here and 11-time world champ Kelly Slater up against Owen Wright in quarterfinal number 4. The winner of this heat will go on to semi 2, and the winner of our next heat will match. Most likely, it's looking like John Florence, because the chance for Dion to climb out a bit slim at this point with 6 minutes on the clock. Let's take a look back at our top scoring waves and how we got here.
Well, right from the get-go, John got a 9.8. Again, he's been heavily relying on that beautiful technique, as we've been talking about, hands-free. Quickly backed it up with a 9.33. Had a little grab rail on the takeoff. Then, of course, as soon as he could, he let go of that rail, standing tall and proud. And this is Dion's 8.33, getting himself involved in this heat. A nice tube, but again, he had to, really need to get involved in this heat. He needed a wave with a little more consequence, a thicker, juicier barrel. So with 5 minutes to go, he's still looking for that one.
Dion, we jump back in with him as he finds another screamer driving down the line. And he gets a clean barrel. Was it in the low to mid 9s? That is the score that he needs to battle. He's in a combo situation needing 2 brand new waves.
Well, keep in mind, John's second score, his second keeper's a 9.33. That was a beautiful tube ride for Dion. I'm thinking that he's going to break out of that combo situation with this ride. As I mentioned in that heat recap, he needed a thicker wave, something of more consequence. And look at that right there. That was a heavy one. And he knifed right through it. So that's the wave that he needed to break out of combination.
So we're talking about what's at stake for Dion Atkinson, and this is a huge, huge accomplishment. Currently 31 on the rankings, and you see those finishes as we jump back in. John Florence immediately stands tall and proud, makes the drop, perfectly navigates that vertical wall on the drop.
Right when I thought Dion was going to maybe get back in his heat, you would have to say that John shut the door. That was one of the biggest waves ridden in this entire competition. A ton of water moving, and look at this one, Pat.
Let's just watch. And that is what you call textbook Chopu spit, way beyond the channel.
Well, we have an event within the event, the Andy Irons Award, and how could you not look at this young man right here, showing the commitment, style, performance, anything you want, he has got it. That was easily, I'm thinking, the biggest wave ridden so far in this contest, and he rode it to perfection.
And the sheer girth, the thickness of that wave, you heard just the channel erupt, and check out the side profile.
I telestrated a wave earlier, just showing how difficult it is to make it down the face of these waves. There's so much water pulling up the wave like a river rapid. Unbelievable for him to have the instinct and the guts to get down and under that ledge, manhandling that bottom turn. And again, of course, for good measure, John's gonna let go of the rail. Unbelievable.
And there's that Zen approach, the Zen exit that we love so much. You heard the channel erupt. Rosie, what is the atmosphere out like out in the channel? I mean, it seems unbelievable from here.
Absolutely incredible, Pat. I mean, the channel whistled that one, and we were aware that something was going to happen, something big was coming. That was probably, I'm calling the biggest wave that we've seen ridden in this entire contest, and John handled it with such ease, stood tall. The channel really appreciated that. We all went pretty nuts. Like I said, the first day that we surfed, the channel is really, it sounds like a bunch of eighth grade girls just losing it in the channel. So that's the vibe out here.
Junior high at its finest. I'll tell you what, there's so many fans in the flotilla out there. As numbers drop for Dion Atkinson, as you pointed out, Ross, Dion back in the mix, 9.43. But here's the thing. Now as we approach the 2-minute mark, still waiting on that fourth wave score with John, you have to love the way Dion is battling back.
And numbers now starting to drop, and this is that nail that I was talking about that's about to slam that coffin shut.
Get out the hammer, start swinging. It's coming awfully close. Really high numbers. It will impact 9.87 for John Florence on that wave. So now Dion Atkinson, he climbed out of the combo situation only for a short moment. So now back in the combo situation under the 2-minute mark with a 9.87.
John just put him back on timeout. That was unbelievable right there. It's amazing timing. You know, Dion, great surfing, that 9.43. That was a heavy wave. And John right behind him on a 9.8. That wave was huge.
2 of the judges gave it a 10. I'm not sure what else you could do, what kind of sprinkling, kind of maybe stars and sparklers on that to add to it. But that was one of the most amazing things I've ever witnessed here at Chopu. Incredible by John Florence.
I agree. You know, there's not a whole lot left to do out there. Look at the texture on the water in the ocean right now. A little bit of an onshore breeze, but with the wave that you're seeing on your screen here with this much size, this much power, wind will not affect it. It has no choice but to heave over itself on that shallow reef. Look at that, how John, as soon as he gets to the bottom and finds his line, he's gonna let go of that rail right there. Keep in mind, this is easily the largest wave ridden so far in this event. There's so much contour. The transition in that wave is unbelievable. For him to fit a straight line of a surfboard in the curve of that wave, it's something that's so difficult to do.
He's breaking the rules of geometry right there. It shouldn't be possible, but he's able to do it. As we counted down the last 30 seconds, Dion Atkinson, he came back swinging. Hats off to him, a 9.43. His first quarterfinal appearance ever on his rookie year on the CT. We look forward to seeing amazing performances out of him in the future. Coming up, 11-time world champ Kelly Slater up against Owen Wright, and this is going to be a rematch of 2011 where Kelly Slater took the win in the final. Stay close when we come back. Joe Trappell and '89 world champ Mark Potter come to the booth.
Get ready.